Good morning, everyone. How are you? I'm Jana Ahmed Abdusalik, and today we'll talk about maths. Actually, today we'll talk about a new lesson or a new topic that's talking about radicals. What means radicals? Or how to solve radicals with perfect or non-perfect square? Or what means perfect and non-perfect square? Actually, radicals, it seems like the number multiply itself to bring a number. Like radical 4. What is the square root, the roots that can multiply itself to bring 4? It's 2. How to solve that? You can make also 4. The multiple of 4 is 2. So that means 2 by 2 will give us 4. And what can give us 2? That means 2 times 1 is equal to 2. Then 1. That means 2 times 2 it's always 2 because 2 is the root or is the square root of 4. So that means the radical 4 is equal to 2. And also radical 9, the square root is 3. What means perfect square? Perfect square is like the numbers that multiply itself, or the real numbers multiply itself to bring the square root. So that was about radicals. And there's some examples how to solve radicals. First example is states radical 48. Radical 48. How to solve radical 48? Some people are solving the radicals or the big numbers by multiplying a numbers and to bring perfect or non-perfect. But you can make an easy way to bring easily and fast the square roots. You can make a big line and make small lines like the sign of plus, but you can make like it's the roots. Okay, first thing here 48, the main number. What can give us 48? You can choose the small numbers, the small numbers in multiple like 2, 3, 4 or 5. It can be also multiplied by 4 and it can be multiplied by 2. Which one is small? 2. So that means 2 by 4 it will be by 2 by 4 because 24 will give us 48. You can see that 2 times 24 will give us 48. Then by 2 again it will be 1, 2. That means 12. By 2 it will be by 6. By 2 it will be by 3. Then 3 by 3, 3 by 1 it will be 3. So that means how many square root we have? First thing we have 2, it will be 1, 2. You can see that the square root it should be 2 numbers that multiply itself. 1 number that multiply itself. Like 2 and 2, it look like 1, 2 only. 2 and 2, it will be only 1, 2. But we have 1, 3. That means it will be non-perfect. But also there's something that you can do it, but let us do this example first, then I will tell you what it is. First thing for this. Now we can make what? 2 and 2, that means 4. That means what? 4, it will be out. 2 times 2, it will be 4. Radical 3. This is the final answer for radical 48. Then let us go to the another example. Radical 8. Radical 8. What number can give us radical 8? You can make the same way like that, or you can do 4 times 2 is equal to 8. That means the square root of 4, what we said before, it is 2. Then the last answer what will be 2 radical 2. I'll make it by this way. It will be 8 by 2, it will be by 4, by 2, it will be by 2, then by 2, it will be by 1. That means what we have 3, but this is not a cube number, it's a square number. So that means we will take only 1, 2, and we will left 2 itself. That means it will be 2 radical 2. But there is something also. What's the difference between this root, you can make root 1, and this root, cube root? What's the difference between them? First, the difference is the index between them. If the square root or the root, if it's like that, doesn't have any index inside it, that means always inside the root it will be 2, the square root. If the root doesn't have any index, doesn't have any number inside it, that means it is 2 square root. It's not 1. But you can use that nth square That means by this formula n square, it can be 4, 5, 6, whatever the square root. Whatever the root. Here now it's the cube root. Here, if you see, it is fourth root, and it can be fifth root, sixth root, seventh root, and continue. But now radical 8, what we said, 2 radical 2 is the final answer for example radical 8. Now the last example is the fourth root of 32 over 81. Now let us solve this question. First thing, I want to make some rules with you to how to solve the fractions in the square root or in the root itself. We know that radical a times radical b, it's the same radical ab, okay? And radical a over radical b, it's the same radical a over b. That means it will be a over b in one radical. Yes. So now what we have, 32, the fourth root of 32 over 81. You can make the cube root, the fourth root of 32 over the cube root, the fourth root of 81. Now, can you give me a number that multiplying itself 4 times giving us 32 or 81? You can use the easy way to solve and to bring the small roots for it. That means here 32, it can be by 2, that means by 1, and here 32, it will be by 16. So 2 times 16 is equal to 32. Then by 2 again, it will be by 8, by 2, 4, by 2, 2, by 2, 1. Now, how many 2 we have? Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what is the index of the root? Is 4. That means we will take only 4, 2 is equal to 1, 2. Now, it will be 2, the fourth root of 2, over, let us solve 81. Can you see? Yes. 81, it can be multiplied by what? By 3. That means by 27. 3 times 27 will give us 81. After that, 27, it will be by 9, by 3, by 3, by 3, by 1. Now, how many 3 do we have? 1, 2, 3, and 4. That means inside the index is 4, and that's right. 4, 3, or you can see that 3 times by itself 4 times is equal to 3. That means what we have here, 2, the fourth root of 2 over 3. This is the final answer for this question. Now that was the example how to solve that. Now let us to simplify and to simplify the radicals of 4 questions. The first question is say that 3 the square root of 8x squared. And there's something, does the exponent of the variable or of the number it's matter? Or can we simplify it by the radical also, or the division or the multiple of the index? We'll see. 3 radical 8x squared. First thing, now 3, it's not inside the index. What now inside the index is square root. That means there is 2, but we'll not write 2. Okay, so now 3 radical 8x squared. We know that 8 is non-perfect square. It can be, so that means what we will do? We will make perfect and non-perfect square for 8. That means it will be 4 times 2. 4 is a perfect square, you can say what? 2 times 2 is equal to 4. That means 2 will go out. But what we have? 3. That means 3 times 2 here. When 3 will 3 is itself outside, but when 4 will go out from the radical, it will be 2. That means times 2 radical x squared. So 3 times 2, it will be 6. 6 radical x squared. Okay, after that what we have? No, we have also here 2, because we'll see, because 8, 4 times 2 is equal to 8, and 4 itself, the square root of 4 is 2. So that means 2, it will still be in the radical. So that means 2x squared. Of course, we know that by 2 and here by 2, it will be what? X. That means if the index is 3, and we have here what? X10. What we will do? Can we simplify it? Yes. How to do that? X1 plus X9, or the power of X. I mean X is the power of 1 plus X is the power of 9. It will be 10. That means the cube root of X the power of 9 plus, or you can do that, the power of 1. That means what? 3. 9. Does it in the multiple of 3? Yes. 3 times 3, 9. So that means it's got by 1 and here by 3. Then what we have? X the power of 3 radical x, because it doesn't have any multiple in 3. Or I mean the cube root of x. X the power of 3, the cube root of x. Okay, that's in variables. Now what we have? 2x squared, and we have square root. That means 2 cut by 2. Then what we have? 6x radical 2. This is the final answer for the first question. Now the second question that says 1 over 3 radical 27 x cube y squared. Okay, 1 over 3 the square root of 27 x cube times y squared. Now we can do the square root here because it's very long. What we can do, it can be like we know that radical AB is equal to radical A times radical B. Okay, that means what we'll do here, we'll do 1 over 3 times radical 27 times radical x cube times radical y square. Now what we have? 1 over 3, and here 27 radical 27 and the radical x cube and radical y square. First thing, we will solve 27. 1 over 3. 27, we know that's the way that we can solve 27. It can be what? Here by 3, here by 9, here by 3, by 3, by 3, by 1. Now we will take only 2, 3 and we'll left 1 because it's the square root. That means we will take only the numbers that multiply itself 2 times. That means it will be by 3. And 1 over 3 times 3 radical 3 times what we have now? X cube. Can we do x the power of 2 and x the power of 1? Yes, that means 2 by 2. It will be x radical x times y squared. That means 2 by 2. It will be radical, it will be y only, because we already take out the radical. So it will be y. Now we'll simplify 1 over 3 times 3. Of course it will be by 3 by 3. So it will be radical 3 times x radical x times y. Now let us arrange it. If you can see down, yeah, we will arrange it. That means only here what we have, x and y, that doesn't have any radical. That means we'll make x times y radical 3x, as we do here. Radical AB is the same like radical A times radical B. So that was the second question. The final answer, what it is? xy radical 3x. Okay, so that means the second question, we solve it. Now let us go to the third question. Only I hope that you know how to solve the radicals, how to simplify the radicals if it's by fractions, or also you can simplify it if it's by decimal. I'll show you one example before we go to the third question. You can make radical 0.016. Okay, how can we solve this decimal inside the square root? Inside the root, we'll make 0, which is it, 1, 2, 3. That means we multiply it by, or we divide it by 100. That means 16 radical. 16 over radical 100. What's the radical 16? You can do also here. 16 by what? By 2. It will be by 8, by 2, by 4, by 2, by 2, by 2, by 1. So what we have? 2 and 2, it will be 2 and 2. That means it will be 4. That means 4 times 4 is equal to 16. Here is equal to 4, and the square root of 100 is 10, because 10 times 10 is equal to 100. Then 4 over 10. Now we will divide it or multiply it. That means 4 divided by 10 is equal to what? 0.4. This is the final answer for the square root of 0.060. That was by decimal. But now let us go to question number 3. Now question number 3, it says radical 2 over 7. Okay, radical 2 over 7 times radical 7 times radical 14. Now, how to solve that? Of course, we will use the we will use the rule of radical A B is the same like radical A times radical B. Okay. Now what we have? Radical 2 over 7. Wait 1 minute. Does 7 have a radical? Or can we say radical 2? It will be 2 over 7. The radical of 2 over 7? That's wrong. And what we have? Radical 2. And 7, it's alone. Over 7. So I will solve it and you will know what I mean. Radical 2 times radical 7 times 14. You can lift this number alone and you can make what? Radical 7 and radical 14 together. That means 7 times 14. But you can do like, if you make 7 times 14, you will make another line and you will solve it. But by either way, 14, we know that 2 times 7 is equal to 14. So that means here it will be by 2 and here by 7. And we have what? 2, 7. Because what I make 7 times 14. And here what we have? 7 and 2. And here we have 2, 7. And the square root of what? Of 14 is equal to 7. The square root of 49 is 7. That means it will be 49 times 2 or 7. Yeah, 49 times 2. It will give us 7 times 14. You can do like it by 7 by 7. So that means what? 7 will go out and 2 will be still inside. Now what we will do? Radical 2 over 7 times what? 7 radical 2. Okay. Now, can we cut 7 by 7? Yes, because 7 doesn't have any radical, and the same like times 7 radical 2, the 7 doesn't have any radical, so that means cut 7 by 7. Now what we have, radical 2 times radical 2, and you know if we make radical 2 times 2 it will be 4, that means radical 4, and the square root of 4 is equal to what? 2. So this is the answer of question number 3, and I think that you know what is the difference between radical 2 over 7, radical 2 over 7, radical 2 alone, and over 7, or the difference between radical 2 over 7. If see here, radical 2 over 7 is difference or is not equal to radical 2 over 7. This is the thing, this is the difference between them. Okay, that means the radical is including 2 over 7, but here the radical is only including 2. Okay, 7 does not have any radical. So now let us go to the last question, question number 4. It says 2 radical 98 times x cubed times x squared over 14 radical x times y. It will be so easy, but it will take some time to solve it. But inshallah, by the easy ways that I told you before, it will be easy. Now, let us write the question. 2 radical 98 x cubed y squared over 14 radical x y. Okay? So first thing, we will use the rule of radical AB is equal to radical A times radical B. So what we will do now, radical 98, it will be alone. Radical x cubed, it will be alone. Radical y squared, it will be alone. So now we'll make 2, it's outside. Now radical 98 times radical x cubed times radical y squared over 14 radical xy. Now let us solve 98. You can see here 98 by 2. By 2 it will be what? Here by 4, 49, by 7, by 7, by 7, by 1. So that means we have 2 7s, that means the number that multiply itself 2 times, it will be the square root of the number. So that means 7, 7, it can be like the square root of 98, but it is the square root of 49. So that means 7, it will be go out, 7 here, we have 7, 7 times 7 times 2. We will take only from them 1 7, and it will go with 2. That means 2 times 7 radical 2. Okay, we solve one part. Now the another part, that it is what? X cubed. It can be cancelled by the square root, because the square root, what we have here, 2. The index is 2, but it doesn't return. So what means we can cancel 2 by 3. It will be x the power of 2 plus the x power of 1. So that means 2 plus 1 will give us 3. Now we cancel 2 by 2, it will be times, you can make times 2 times 7 times radical 2 times x times radical x. Again times y squared, that means 2 by 2, it can be because it's a square root, that means it will be times y only without any radical. After that, we will multiply 2 times 7 is equal to 14. Okay, so that means 14 radical what? No, before 14 radical, we'll bring the non-perfect, we'll bring the perfect and non-perfect together. Like 14, it's what? Perfect. After that, x, then y. That means 14xy radical 2 times radical x. Okay, now we have also the denominator. Don't forget the denominator over 14 radical xy. Can you see that? Okay. Now we'll cut 14 by 14. Okay. And we know that radical x, it can be here because xy is the same like radical a. See, radical xy, it can be radical x times radical y. So when we do that radical x times radical y, we'll cut x by x, radical x by radical x. Then what will have the last answer? The last answer, it will be xy radical 2 over radical xy. I mean radical y. Now, what we have here? Xy only. Xy, and we have radical 2, and we have radical y only. So that means xy radical 2 over radical y. This is the final answer for question number 4. I hope that you benefit from this video and know how to solve and to simplify the radicals if it is a real number by itself, a number, or if it's by decimal or by fractional. And inshallah we'll make more examples afterwards with new videos, and you will benefit and you will know and you'll be familiar with that. Okay, so thank you for watching and thank you for listening.